You know those vendor artists?
No one's stopping them from saying anything. No one's stopping them from displaying things. The problem is they want to sell. And when you sell, that's a commercialization. That's not a First Amendment right.
Art matter.
Currently, there's a restraining order from the city enforcing the arrest statutes against 9 individual artists.
How many of you have been arrested?
9 times.
The restraining order is not to have them arrested or have their property confiscated for forfeiture while this case is being determined through the courts.
Many of the members of this group have been arrested for showing their work. Their artwork was destroyed by the police after it was arrested. And we want to change the law so that it's legal for artists to show their work on the street. It should be.
The cops came, they just got out of their van and started throwing all my metal sculpture in the black hefty bag and said, you're not supposed to be here. And I said, wait, I made this is my art. It took me a long time. They said, no, you're not supposed to be here, and that was it. I was in front of a store that was closed on Sunday, and I was given an ECB summons.
Amendment now.
So the booksellers aren't being taxed or licensed?
Not at all.
As a vendor?
Not at all.
And they're treating someone selling art or doing art and selling in the streets as a criminal?
As charged with unlicensed general vending. Even though I wasn't even selling my work, all I do is show it on the street. I display my work. I was handcuffed, thrown in jail. My work was confiscated and destroyed.
All right. Now we talk. Okay.
Well, they sort of snuck up on me. They asked me if I had a license, which of course I don't. And when I said I didn't, they proceeded to write a ticket. And the guy was actually not real unfriendly. The cops tend to be a lot worse.
I've been crying a lot and haven't been able to create since. You figure when something horrible happens to you, you'd be able to create, but I can't right now, and neither can my husband. All our work was taken. We wanted to come down here and show you our work as well, but we can't do that right now because we can't do it. I woke up with five cops on top of me, wrestling me, and asked me why people with firearms are trying to enforce the laws in such a meat. It's a First Amendment right. It's our right to express ourselves.
I frankly think it's a way to earn a living as an artist without having to also have yet another job, and I feel very comfortable. I get a lot of exposure out here, but then I got arrested twice in October, 2 weekends in a row. The police came, handcuffed me without warning really, handcuffed me behind my back, put me in a police van, confiscated 25 of my paintings, and kept me each time in a cell for 2 hours, and it was very humiliating and demoralizing. It kept me from coming out in the street and feeling comfortable for a long time.
Stop arresting artists! Stop arresting artists! Stop arresting artists! Stop arresting artists! Stop arresting artists!
Well, last Sunday, as a matter of fact, I was on 73rd and Broadway, and the police confiscated my entire show, which consisted of this, except that there was another show. I had to make this since Sunday. When I told him that I have a federal court order, an injunction against interfering with me, he also said he doesn't know about it, he's not particularly interested in it, this is his beat, get off his beat.
The major point is that art should be protected as well as other forms of expression. Right now the law will protect written material like newspapers, they'll protect pornography, it will protect movies and theater. I fail to see
the real problem is that particularly in Manhattan, a lot of our sidewalks are simply too crowded. Again, if you look at some areas, the sidewalks aren't that large. The older areas of the city, which is most of my district, a lot of the sidewalks, there are plenty of places where the sidewalks aren't even 12 feet deep. A lot of times the only way to really pass through the area is to walk in the streets. And when that starts happening, you know it's much too congested.
Peddlers would have a right to be there if they had a license to be there.
and if the street could accommodate them. There are certain people, you could have a licensed peddler, but if the street's too narrow, he wouldn't be allowed to be there. So I think this is just obey whatever the regulations.
What are the regulations in Soho?
Well, the regulations are that the sidewalk be 12 feet, there be a clear pedestrian path of 12 feet. The streets there are less than 12 feet, in Soho are less than 12 feet, so right there, de facto, you couldn't sell. Also, other considerations like 20 feet from a doorway, an entranceway to someone's door, and also the peddler or vendor should be 10 feet from a crosswalk. None of these are observed.
Well, as anybody who lives in this city or has visited here knows, the sidewalks in New York City are crowded. Where there are vendors, it's crowded. Where there are no vendors, it's crowded. That's part of reality in a city. If you go to the desert, there's a lot of sand. If you go to the jungle, there's a lot of trees. And if you go to a big city, it's crowded. This is a basic given. They're not going to get rid of crowding by arresting artists. In the whole city of New York, there are no more than 150 artists selling their own work. So it's ludicrous to imagine that the artists are what's making the crowded circumstances in the city.
Artists need the right to be able to paint and to communicate their ideas to the public.
Money that I'm paying, I think it makes the street more interesting. I think it makes the shopping experience more interesting. I also think it makes the other art around it a little bit more interesting and different.
We found out that there's actually a very determined and organized opposition to artists being on the street. It involves the very top levels of the official art world, directors of museums and boards of directors of museums. These people, it's not so much that they don't want a couple of artists selling a picture on the street. They basically don't want artists to get the idea that they can go outside of this official art world and market their work by themselves. They have a need to maintain the monopoly. In past years, I was trying to avoid being arrested at any cost. So I had many strategies that I devised to avoid it. The simplest one would be to disguise my work as garbage. So I would set up alongside garbage cans, and literally the back of the work, I would hang garbage from it, so when they came by in a police car, it would look like just trash on the sidewalk. But in recent years, I don't particularly try to avoid being arrested. I challenge them to arrest me because I take them to court when they arrest me, and they've still never found me guilty of doing this at any point. Been arrested 10 times so far, and they've dismissed the charges in each case. I'm not resisting, but I don't know that I want to open the door and find out. No, we're not.
If we'd gone to trial, he probably would have been acquitted. However, these cases don't go far enough for that. Either they're dismissed in the interest of justice, which is what's happening now all the time, or in the past, artists have been taking pleas to violations and paying a fine.
After the police continued to arrest us, we finally got attorneys to get into federal court and make a lawsuit. Part of that lawsuit is that we're suing the city of New York, the mayor.
Really do belong to the people, and that really means under the control of the municipal government. Crowded in on some of our midtown streets, or be harassed or harangued by people who are trying to sell them things. On the other hand, if people want to display their art, sell their poetry, hand out their political pamphlet, that is a protected First Amendment activity. And the most the government can do is set certain time, place, and manner restrictions, but really only those that are the least restrictive as balanced against the public need. For example, you could certainly stop people from setting up a table across a sidewalk so that people would have to walk around it because there's a public need there. But what you can't say to them is, oh, you have to go set up your table in another borough. You have to make available some alternative to people who are exercising their First Amendment rights so that they can interact with the people. It's a balance between the individual's right to express herself or himself and the public's right to go about its business freely.